The winter lights of Denver glowed against the snow, but none of it felt warm to Olivia Hart. At her sister's wedding, she sat alone at a corner table, her pastel blue bridesmaid dress folded neatly across her lap, her smile thin and brittle. Laughter filled the hall, couples swayed to the music, and every glance toward her felt like a reminder that she didn't belong. Across the room, her ex-boyfriend, already wrapped around someone new, kept casting smug looks her way, as if he enjoyed watching her sink deeper into herself. And when the slow song started, Olivia ducked her head, pretending to check her phone, wishing the night would just end. Before we begin, don't forget to share this story, leave a comment, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales every day. Lost at the winter wedding, snow swept across the hotel courtyard in slow waves, brushing against the frost-rimmed windows and softening every sound inside. Olivia Hart sat at a corner table draped in ivory linen, her pale blue bridesmaid dress gathered neatly over her knees. She was 27, slender, with warm olive skin and long chestnut hair pinned back with a silver comb that her sister had given her that morning. She had tried to smile for the photographs, but her dark eyes betrayed the strain she felt. Tonight, every emotion she had fought to bury rose again with painful clarity. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and tall floral arrangements. Guests mingled, laughed, and clinked glasses as if joy were the only language spoken here. Olivia's family was gathered near the center, surrounding her older sister Grace, who looked radiant in a satin gown. Their mother fluttered about with her usual bright fussiness, checking every detail and fussing over every petal on the floor. Olivia loved her sister deeply, yet she felt like a mismatched piece in a picture-perfect frame. She kept her hands folded in her lap, willing her heartbeat to settle. Her ex-boyfriend, Lucas Porter, sat at the next table. Lucas was tall and athletic, with sandy hair and a sharp jawline that softened only when he smiled. She once loved those smiles. Now she dreaded seeing them. His new girlfriend, a woman with glossy black curls and a striking red dress, leaned on his shoulder with confident ease. Lucas laughed loudly at something she whispered. Then, as if sensing Olivia's glance, he looked over and offered a smirk that sliced through her composure. It was the same expression he had worn the day he ended things, telling her she was too quiet and too unsure of herself to keep up with him. Each glance felt like a reminder she had been left behind. Several relatives whispered openly, their voices drifting across the table. Poor Olivia, still alone. She should really put herself out there. Such a pretty girl, but no prospects. The words passed through her like cold needles, leaving her both embarrassed and angry at herself for caring. She pressed her fingers against her temples, trying to block out the sting. Her mind churned with the familiar loop of doubts. Maybe Lucas was right. Maybe she wasn't enough. Maybe she was destined to be the extra seat at every table, the filler in the background of other people's joy. When the slow music began, couples filled the dance floor. Lucas took his girlfriend by the waist and spun her with theatrical charm, clearly aware of who might be watching. Olivia felt her stomach twist. She forced herself to smile politely at the guests walking by, but the mask grew heavier with every passing moment. She whispered an excuse about checking her phone, slipped out of her chair, and headed for the back doors leading to the balcony. As she exited the warm glow of the ballroom, a blast of cool, icy air struck her face. She exhaled shakily, grateful for the cold that blurred the heat rising behind her eyes. The balcony was covered with a thin sheet of snow. Decorative lights glowed faintly under the frost, and the railing sparkled like a row of tiny frozen stars. Olivia gripped the metal bar, letting the chill seep into her palms as she tried to steady her breathing. She had held herself together for hours, but out here, the isolation wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. Her shoulders trembled. For a moment, she pressed her forehead into her scarf, letting a few tears fall silently into the snow at her feet. She didn't sob. She was too used to swallowing sadness quietly, but her chest tightened until she felt she might burst. Why can't I just be happy for her? Why can't I be stronger? Why does it still hurt? The wind shifted, carrying faint music from the ballroom behind her. She tried to compose herself, thinking she could slip back inside before anyone noticed she was gone. She straightened her dress, brushed off the snowflakes clinging to her skirt, and lifted her chin. Then she froze. From across the courtyard, a soft bark cut through the winter quiet. Not loud, not threatening, almost as if the animal were calling her attention gently. Olivia blinked and peered through the drifting snow. A large German shepherd stood several yards away near the shadowed edge of the walkway. The dog's fur was a striking blend of black and deep brown, dusted with flakes of snow. Its ears were alert, posture steady, eyes fixed on her with an uncanny presence, watchful but calm. Beside the dog stood a tall man wearing a heavy navy coat and dark cargo trousers tucked into winter boots. He was broad-shouldered, his stance firm against the cold. The shadows hid most of his features, but the faint glow from an overhead lamp caught the shape of a strong jawline, a close-trimmed beard, and the faintest scar near his temple. His posture was disciplined, as though still shaped by years of training. He didn't move closer. He simply observed, quietly, as if assessing whether she needed help. Olivia's breath hitched. For a heartbeat, she couldn't tell if she felt fear, relief, or something else entirely. She wiped her cheek quickly, embarrassed at the idea of being seen crying by a stranger. The man raised a hand slightly, a subtle gesture, not a wave, not a command, more like a silent reassurance that he meant no harm. The dog remained perfectly still beside him, loyal and unmoving. Olivia felt the weight in her chest shift, though she didn't yet know why. She had no idea who he was or why he was here, and she certainly did not know whether he could help with anything. But in that quiet, snowy moment, she realized she was no longer entirely alone. The quiet protector in the snow, Noah, Carter stepped fully into the soft glow of the balcony lights, the snow collecting on the shoulders of his navy coat. His gait carried a slight stiffness in the left leg, a subtle rhythm formed from years of injuries he rarely spoke about. Standing beside him, the German shepherd maintained an alert posture, the black service harness cutting a clean line along his strong frame. The dog was impressive even in stillness. His fur was a thick blend of dark charcoal and warm brown, the coat of a well-trained working dog rather than a pampered pet. His name, Noah soon explained, was Ranger. 5 years old, intelligent, and intensely loyal, Ranger had served on several high-tension assignments before becoming Noah's full-time service partner after their last tour overseas. Olivia found herself studying both dog and handler before she realized she was staring. Noah lowered his hood, revealing a rugged face framed by short ash-brown hair. His jaw was square and lightly stubbled, giving him a weathered look that somehow complemented the steady calm in his eyes. Those eyes, a deep blue, held a quiet clarity, as if trained to read people long before they spoke. He rested a gloved hand on Ranger's neck. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice low and steady. Olivia hesitated. She had rehearsed polite answers many times in her life, but none seemed to fit here. The cold reddened her cheeks, and her lashes were still damp from tears. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice wavered slightly. "Just needed a moment." Noah didn't press her. There was something respectful in the way he observed her, giving space yet staying close enough to reassure. Ranger, sensing her unsteady breath, took one deliberate step nearer, positioning himself so that half his weight faced her, half toward the doorway, as if guarding two fronts at once. They spoke lightly at first, about the storm rolling into Denver, about how the music inside was a bit too loud for fragile winter moods. Olivia's shoulders eased. She found herself admitting how weddings made her uncomfortable, how she often felt like a misplaced piece in a puzzle she was supposed to fit in. Noah nodded, the faintest hint of understanding crossing his features. "Life puts us in strange places," he said simply. "Sometimes you just need someone to stand with you until the noise settles." Before Olivia could respond, the glass door swung open with a harsh clatter. Lucas Porter stepped out into the cold. His face was flushed, partly from the alcohol he had been nursing all night. The once handsome lines of his jaw were softened with drunken arrogance. His tuxedo jacket hung loosely, his tie undone and crooked like an afterthought. "Well, look at that," he slurred. "You're still out here alone." He didn't notice Noah or Ranger at first. His gaze raked over Olivia with that same tired superiority she had known too well during their relationship. He stumbled closer, the snow crunching beneath his polished shoes. "I came to check on you," he added, though his tone made it sound more like a taunt than concern. "Figured you'd be hiding somewhere. You always do." Olivia stepped back instinctively. Ranger reacted before Noah spoke. His ears pricked forward, body lowering a fraction, as he placed himself between them, not aggressive, controlled, calculating. Lucas finally noticed the dog, then the tall figure behind him. His smirk faltered. Noah's voice remained calm, but a different energy threaded through it now, something colder, sharper. "She's not alone," he said. "She's with us tonight." Lucas blinked. "Us?" He scoffed, though it lacked conviction. "What, you her bodyguard?" Something like that, Noah replied, meeting Lucas's stare with a level gaze that held no challenge, only quiet warning. You should head back inside. The dance floor misses you. Lucas shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Ranger again. The dog didn't bark. He didn't need to. His steady amber gaze said enough. Lucas muttered something under his breath and retreated to the door, pulling it shut behind him with more force than necessary. When the silence returned, Olivia realized she was shaking, not from fear, but from the sudden release of tension. I'm sorry, she whispered. You shouldn't have had to step in. Noah shook his head. You don't owe anyone an apology for someone else's behavior. He offered a faint smile, softening the steel that had edged his tone moments earlier. Look, he added, leaning slightly closer, if it helps you feel less isolated tonight, you can pretend you came with me. People look twice before whispering when someone has company. Olivia blinked, startled by the unexpected kindness. I wouldn't want to trouble you. It's not trouble, he said. Just an option. Ranger nudged her hand gently, as if offering his own vote. The warmth rising in Olivia's chest surprised her. For the first time that night, the ache in her heart loosened. She nodded slowly, a shy but genuine motion. All right, she said, maybe just for tonight. Noah gave a short nod in return, as if sealing a quiet agreement. Ranger fell into step beside them, his tail lowering into a relaxed curve. Together, the three of them turned toward the glow of the ballroom, stepping through the curtain of falling snow as though walking into a different version of the evening. The storm's warning. The ballroom glowed with soft candlelight when Noah and Olivia stepped back inside, their footsteps melting snowflakes onto the polished floor. The chatter had softened into a hum. No one questioned their return together. They blended easily into the warm light, as though they had arrived as a pair from the very beginning. Ranger settled near a marble column, his large frame folding neatly beside a planter of winter roses. The dog remained attentive, amber eyes following Olivia as she and Noah took a hesitant place near the edge of the dance floor. He looked almost statuesque, but Olivia sensed the quiet readiness beneath the calm exterior. The next song drifted through the speakers, a slow melody with a gentle rhythm. Couples drifted out in twos, hands interlaced, faces resting against warm shoulders. Olivia felt the tension in her spine build when she noticed Lucas glaring toward her table again. The jealousy in his face was unmistakable. The smug tilt of his mouth had vanished. Noah caught her glance and leaned slightly toward her. If you want, he murmured, we can dance. Let them draw whatever conclusions they need. Olivia hesitated, then placed her hand into his. It felt steady, warm, and strangely grounding. Noah guided her out into the center of the room. His left leg moved a little slower than his right, but he didn't let it hinder him. Olivia sensed the discipline in his movements, the years of learning to adapt rather than retreat. They stepped into the music. Olivia was far from graceful, and Noah was far from polished, but the honesty in their awkward rhythm made her laugh in a way she hadn't laughed all night. Noah grinned when he nearly slipped, muttering something about Denver floors being too slick for old bones. Ranger rose halfway to his feet, watching them with mild disapproval, as though counting how many missteps it would take before he had to intervene. Warmth began spreading through Olivia's chest. She felt lighter, until the lights above flickered once, twice, then went dead. Darkness swallowed the hall. Someone screamed, glass shattered, children began crying, and chairs scraped across the floor in noisy confusion. Olivia felt Noah shift instinctively, one arm coming around her shoulder, guiding her toward a wall before anything could fall near them. Emergency lighting came on in dim strips, casting the ballroom in silvery shadows. A murmur cut through the room. Someone shouted near the head table, "The flower girl! She's gone!" Olivia's heart lurched. She turned toward the voice and saw her older sister's husband trying to calm his frantic sister, a woman named Sarah Mitchell, who stood trembling beside an overturned chair. Sarah was a petite woman in her mid-30s, with pale blonde hair pinned into a bun that had already started to unravel. Her face was drained of color, and her hands fluttered to her throat as though she couldn't get enough air. "My daughter, my little Lily, I can't find her," she cried. "She was here when the lights went out." A cold chill ran through Olivia, not from the winter air, but from the image of a child out there in the blizzard. Noah moved swiftly towards Sarah. "Ma'am," he said, his tone steady and commanding without harshness, "I need you to tell me the last place you saw her." Sarah pointed toward the back corridor. "She was playing with her pedals near the side door. She likes watching snow. Oh God, what if she went outside?" Noah didn't waste another second. He clipped the lead onto Ranger's harness, tightening it with a precise motion Olivia suspected came from muscle memory. Ranger's demeanor transformed. He went from calm companion to focused working dog in a single breath. His ears snapped forward, his chest expanded, and he lowered his head to sniff the discarded ring of tiny white flowers that had fallen to the floor. "She dropped her crown," Olivia whispered. "That's all he needs," Noah replied. Ranger inhaled deeply, then jerked forward toward the service hallway. Noah followed at once. Olivia found herself running after them, her pulse thundering in her ears. She wasn't trained for this. She wasn't brave like Noah. Still, her legs didn't stop. The side door hung open, slamming repeatedly in the wind. Outside, the storm had grown vicious. Snow streaked sideways like white sand against the hotel walls. They stepped into the cold, their breath turning instantly to fog. Ranger pulled hard, leading them across the icy parking lot toward a row of snow-covered cars. Olivia shielded her eyes, trying to see what the dog had sensed. After several slippery yards, she saw it, movement near the fence line. A small figure crouched beside the front tire of a sedan jutting crookedly out of a snowbank. Lily. The little girl sat hugging her knees, her pink dress hidden beneath a child-sized white coat now drenched with melting snow. Her dark curls stuck to her cheeks, and her blue eyes were wide with fear. But before Olivia could run toward her, the ice beneath her foot groaned. A thin crack spidered outward, the white surface fracturing like fragile glass. "Stop!" Noah barked, grabbing her arm. The ice split another inch. Olivia gasped, her heart slamming against her ribs. Ranger stepped forward, lowering himself into a sturdy stance, blocking her as though physically anchoring her in place. Noah skirted the cracked patch and crouched low, stretching his arms toward the shivering girl. "Hey, sweetheart," he called, voice dropping into something warm and careful. "I'm going to bring you home to your mom. Can you come to me?" Lily hesitated, then crawled toward him. Noah reached her, scooped her up with fierce gentleness, and wrapped his coat around her small frame. The girl clung to him, crying into his collar. When he returned to Olivia's side, she exhaled shakily, finally able to step away from the cracking ice. They hurried back inside, where Sarah broke into tears at the sight of her daughter alive and safe. She hugged Lily so tightly the child squeaked. The entire family swarmed around Noah and Ranger, words of gratitude tripping over each other. Lucas stood in the corner, pale and silent. His earlier bravado melted into nothing. He looked at the man holding the rescued child, then at the dog standing guard beside him, and said nothing. For the first time that night, Olivia felt a shift in the room. Everyone saw Noah clearly now, and maybe, for the first time, they saw her too. The measure of her own worth, Denver lingered in a half-winter state, the streets lined with slush that had once been clean snow. The afternoon sky carried a muted silver tone, as though the city itself had not yet decided whether spring was worth trusting. Olivia stepped out of the light rail station, pressing her scarf closer around her neck, as she headed toward the old brick building of the Frontline Community Center, a place dedicated to veterans and their families. The building stood modest and sturdy, its red walls softened by decades of storms. Outside hung a large metal emblem featuring an eagle's silhouette, wings spread. The center was often busy in the evenings, filled with families, retired soldiers, therapy groups, and volunteers of every background. Today seemed no different. Inside, Olivia paused to take in the noise. Children running through hallways, veterans in worn jackets chatting by the coffee station, a group of older women knitting blankets for local shelters. The warm hum of community settled over her like a gentle cloak. She spotted Noah and Ranger near a bulletin board covered in flyers. Noah wore a thick, charcoal gray sweater over a black t-shirt, sleeves pushed to his elbows. It revealed strong forearms toned by years of training, crisscrossed faintly with scars that hinted at missions he never openly discussed. His hair was slightly tousled, giving him a more relaxed appearance than the night they met. Yet, his posture was familiar, steady, alert, protective without meaning to be. Ranger sat beside him, tail curled neatly around his legs. The dog's coat gleamed under the hallway lights, and his amber eyes scanned the room, missing nothing. He wore a simpler harness today, a dark one with only his name embroidered along the strap. When he spotted Olivia, his ears perked, and he rose with a graceful stretch. Noah turned at the same moment. A subtle smile touched his lips, the kind that softened the harsher lines of his face. "Hey," he greeted. "Didn't expect to see you this early. I finished my client work sooner than planned," she said, Thought I'd help with the posters for Saturday's event. He nodded. Glad you're here. We could use your eye for design. Over the last few weeks, the center had become a second home for her. She volunteered to create flyers, organize activity corners, and help decorate rooms for workshops. Spending time there felt grounding in ways she couldn't fully describe. People didn't judge her for being quiet or introspective. They appreciated her skills and respected her space. Ranger trotted over, pressing his head lightly into her hand. His fur was warm from the building's heater, and Olivia found herself smiling as she scratched behind his ear. "You've made a new best friend," Noah said, half amused. "Pretty sure he just likes my granola bars," she replied, though a soft warmth spread through her chest. Together, the three walked toward a room where other volunteers were gathering. Inside sat Martha Doyle, a middle-aged woman with copper-red hair cropped short around her sharp cheekbones. She wore a patterned wool cardigan and had a habit of talking with her hands. Martha ran the family programs at the center and had a warm but firm demeanor, the type of woman who could settle arguments among children and Marines alike. "Olivia, sweetheart, perfect timing," Martha called. "We need your help choosing a color scheme." The next hour passed in a blend of laughter, planning, and playful arguments over which shade of blue most resembled friendly skies. Ranger lay under the table beside Olivia, occasionally nudging her ankle when she forgot to take a break. As the sun dipped lower, the volunteer groups began packing up. Olivia gathered her sketch pad and walked toward the parking lot, thinking she might stop for groceries before heading home. Standing outside was Lucas. He leaned against a lamppost, his posture stiff and guarded. His blonde hair was windswept, and his eyes were bloodshot, as though he had not slept much, or had slept too little after drinking too much. His winter coat looked expensive but rumpled, a poor match for the granite tension on his face. "Olivia," he said, straightening, "we need to talk." Her pulse jumped. A cold shiver slipped down her spine, but she kept her tone measured. "I'm on my way out. Whatever you have to say, make it quick." Lucas stepped closer, his voice tight. "I shouldn't have acted like a jerk at the wedding. I know that. But seeing you with that guy, whoever he is, made things worse. You should have talked to me before parading around with him." It was a twisted apology wrapped in entitlement. Olivia swallowed hard, wanting to step back but refusing to retreat. "We're not together, Lucas. You ended things, remember?" He ignored the comment. "You're not going to find someone better. You think he actually cares? Guys like him don't stick around." A shadow moved at the far end of the lot. Ranger. His form emerged from behind a parked SUV, posture silent but unmistakably alert. Behind him walked Noah, his expression unreadable, yet something sharper flickered beneath his calm exterior. He didn't rush. Instead, he approached with measured steps, giving Olivia every chance to signal whether she needed intervention. Ranger reached her first. The dog stopped between her and Lucas, weight centered, protectiveness radiating through every controlled breath. Noah stepped beside them, voice low but steady. "If you want me here, I'll stay," he said. "But whatever you need to say to him is yours to choose." Olivia inhaled shakily. She felt the old fear rise, the fear of disappointing someone, of being too soft, too quiet. But then she saw Ranger's steady stance, and Noah's unwavering presence, and something inside her shifted. She lifted her chin. "Lucas, you don't get to show up uninvited," she said. "You don't get to decide who I talk to or what my worth is. You've had your chance. You don't get another." Lucas blinked, startled by her firmness. "Olivia, no," she said. "This conversation ends here." Lucas's jaw tightened. He stepped back, frustration flickering across his features. He muttered something under his breath before retreating to his car. Tires squealed against slush as he sped away. Only after he was gone did Olivia realize her hands weren't shaking. Ranger nudged her fingers gently, offering the silent praise of a dog who understood bravery better than humans ever could. Noah exhaled, a small, relieved smile forming. "You handled that better than most people I know." She looked at him, warmth rising in her chest. "For once," she said quietly, "I actually believe that." The quiet chain of kindness, late winter sunlight drifted through the tall windows of the Frontline Community Center, giving the hall a muted golden glow. Streamers in deep navy and warm copper hung from the ceiling, catching the light just enough to shimmer without overwhelming the space. Olivia stepped back from the last display she had finished, a collage honoring military families, and let herself breathe in the hum of the gathering crowd. The evening celebration was the largest event the center held each year, meant to honor veterans, welcome new families, and connect the broader community with the lives behind the uniforms. It was the kind of gathering Olivia once would have dreaded, fearing she would fade into the background like an overlooked brushstroke in someone else's painting. But tonight felt different. The quiet steadiness inside her felt earned, not borrowed. Noah stood at the opposite end of the room, near the check-in table, helping direct guests. He wore a crisp dark shirt rolled to his elbows, revealing the network of faint scars along his forearms. His posture was its usual blend of alert and relaxed, eyes scanning the room, but softened by the warmth of familiar faces greeting him. Every so often he adjusted the small earpiece worn by the volunteer security team, though his attention drifted often toward Olivia, as if making sure she wasn't lifting too many boxes or climbing unstable chairs. Ranger lay beside him, perfectly still, except for the occasional sweep of his tail. His thick winter coat shone under the lights, and the Navy service vest he wore made him look both official and comforting. Several children had asked to pet him, and though the rules said otherwise, Ranger merely observed them with patient eyes, as though understanding the innocence of small hands. A little further across the room, volunteers arranged food trays. One of them, Brian Keller, a retired Air Force mechanic in his early 50s, stood out. Brian was stout with a square jaw, salt and pepper beard, and gentle brown eyes. He had the kind of presence that made people instinctively trust him. His left hand had a slight tremor, a lingering effect from shrapnel wounds years ago, but his sense of humor remained intact. He joked loudly about the center needing double rations when he saw Ranger eyeing the chicken platter. Olivia smiled at the interplay of personalities around her. For once, she didn't feel like a misplaced puzzle piece. She felt woven into the picture. She made another slow circle around the hall, adjusting a few crooked signs, fixing a ribbon that had slipped, and greeting newcomers. As she passed near the refreshment table, a soft, uncertain voice caught her attention. A young woman sat alone on one of the folding chairs near the corner. She was slender, maybe in her early 20s, with long waves of chestnut hair falling over a cream-colored sweater. Her skin was pale, both from complexion and nerves, and her gray eyes darted anxiously across the room, as if unsure she belonged. She clutched a plastic cup of water so tightly, her knuckles blanched. Olivia recognized the expression immediately. It was the same one she carried the night of Grace's wedding. The look of someone trying to shrink herself enough not to be noticed. Across the room, Noah had noticed as well. He stood several paces away, one hand resting lightly on Ranger's back. His arms were crossed, not in impatience but in quiet watchfulness. When Olivia met his eyes, he lifted his chin slightly in wordless encouragement. He wasn't guiding her, just supporting her choice to be the one who reached out. Olivia crossed the room and stopped near the young woman. "Hi," she said gently. "These events can feel overwhelming. Would you like to sit with us instead? I promise there's a very well-behaved dog involved." The young woman blinked, startled. She quickly brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I don't want to intrude." "You're not," Olivia assured. "Really, I'd be glad to have you." The woman hesitated, then stood. "I'm Emily Boyd," she said softly. Up close she appeared even younger, with delicate features and a shy stiffness in her posture. She explained that her brother had served overseas, and tonight was her first time attending an event without him. He was recovering from surgery after an injury, and she felt guilty being here in his place. Olivia nodded with empathy. "Then you belong here as much as anyone." Emily followed her toward the long table near the front. Ranger, noticing the new arrival, rose politely and wagged his tail once, a single, measured greeting that managed to be both dignified and welcoming. His amber eyes softened in a way Olivia had come to recognize: approval. Noah stepped aside to pull out a chair for Olivia, a gesture that felt natural between them now. Emily sat across from her, nerves easing bit by bit under the warmth of the group. Conversations grew, laughter rose. Ranger curled at Olivia's feet while Emily gently traced the rim of her cup, as if grounding herself. And in that moment, with the snow starting to fall again outside the tall windows, Olivia felt something unfold inside her, something she had not been able to name until now. She understood that the night she met Noah wasn't only a rescue. It wasn't only about being shielded from loneliness or defended from past hurts. It was the moment she had first been reminded of her worth, not by grand gestures, but by small, steady acts of kindness offered without demand. Tonight she was offering that same kindness forward. Ranger gave a quiet huff of approval, his tail thumping once against the floorboards as Emily smiled for the first time since sitting down. Outside, the snow fell in slow spirals, softening the city's sharp lines and turning Denver into something gentle, something hopeful. Olivia watched the snowfall and felt warmth spread through her chest. Not the fragile warmth of temporary comfort, but the deeper kind that grows from being seen, valued, and finally brave enough to reach out to someone else. The chain had begun long before tonight. She was simply the next link, passing it on. In the quiet glow of that winter night, Olivia realized that kindness often arrives the way miracles do. Not with trumpets or thunder, but through steady hands, gentle words, and the courage of someone who chooses to stand beside us when the world feels cold. Some people call it coincidence, some call it fate, but many believe it is God's way of placing the right souls in our path at exactly the moment we need them most. A former Navy SEAL burdened by old scars, a service dog who never stopped watching over those in pain, a young woman searching for her place in the world. Each of them became an answer to the other's silent prayer. And that is the quiet miracle woven through daily life. God often sends help in forms we do not expect, through people we did not know we needed. At times when hope feels out of reach, His grace does not always roar. Sometimes it simply arrives and sits beside us, offering warmth on a freezing night. If this story touched your heart, I invite you to share it with someone who might need a reminder that they are not alone. Leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from, or share a moment in your life when kindness felt like a blessing sent from above. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories of compassion, courage, and the quiet miracles that still move among us. May God bless you, your family, and every step you take in the days ahead.